All right, cyber traders, welcome on back here this Wednesday, August 4th, shortly after 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Welcome on back here for our afternoon meeting. Great to see all of our students and trial members alike inside our trading room, including Norman, Felix, Peter, Harry. We got a lot of us here today. All of us chatting just earlier on a quick sound test. Frank, Lita, Bonnie, Gary, Donnie, Debbie, Bill, all of us otherwise above. Great to see you all. And for all of us on social media, Facebook Live and YouTube, welcome on back. So, we'll get to Bitcoin as today is Wednesday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We'll talk about Bitcoin, but we'll do that at the end of the meeting. We have BTBT on the screen, though, to begin. The stock ended up making a nice push up to start things off for us. Ended up making a bit of a slingshot right around like 1175, 1170-ish, that is right there, and ended up pushing up pretty nicely. So, perhaps this could still be in play. More so ended up making the run up from the market open, right? This stock wasn't on the main CTU morning watch list, pre-market list, but if you've been following us here, and even not me in this afternoon meeting, but even Fausto in the mornings, just one of us, we're always talking about this stock on a weekly basis. We certainly have been over the last, 4 to 5 weeks, over the last, really year or so. We've been following this stock on and off, dating back to January, popped up with Bitcoin, and then ended up making a lower high and dumped back down. So this is a Bitcoin affiliated stock, perhaps Bitcoin mining affiliated, to go along with the Maras and riots out there that we tend to more so follow. Those aren't really moving as sharp, and we've kind of noted that over the last, few days this week. So, BTBT, perhaps we'll come back to this at the end, check back in on the stock at the end here, and then from there we'll go to Bitcoin. All right. But otherwise, though, we ended up doing pretty nicely across the morning here today. I know a bit more expensive compared to what we normally trade, but the Robinhood stock, I mean, I really can't believe it. I can, but I can't. Normally, IPOs tend to fall off right away at first. This certainly did off its first day. But man, the last 2 days, including today, where this stock ended up making this giant pop from like 55 all the way up towards a high of 85 bucks, on a short squeeze, you may call it. I mean, just to see a stock breaking all-time highs, the rule of thumb is that there's no historical ceiling. So, who knows what it could do. This is the pipe dream. This is everything that you would want to have happen. So, the Robinhood trade ended up making this giant parabolic push up. And here's the thing, though. I mean, we see this more on the smaller cap stocks with less liquidity. This definitely doesn't have as much liquidity, given the price of the stock here. But it's to say that when this stock gets halted on the way down, if it gets halted on the way down, that's usually a wrap. That's usually game over for the stock. Ended up getting halted on the way up a couple of times. Got halted on the way down once right here. Reopened up 5 minutes later at 9:53 Eastern, and from there only continued its descent down. For what it's worth, it's getting a second smaller push up so far, and by smaller, I guess that's not really the right word to use, but ended up making a nice healthy push up from 60-ish, 58-ish, all the way up towards near 75, pulled back now. So listen, if you've been following this stock across the last few days off the IPO, and if you're more interested in trading this, just please be careful. I would trade it on a much smaller share size. Me personally, I'm not as interested to trade this so far heading into the close. The one I'm more like enamored by, this one, the BYSI, and at this point we may as well just go from top to bottom. But the BYSI trade, man, I got to go to Benzinga Pro here for the news. I forgot the news off the top of my head here, but this stock was up as much as 330% in pre-market trading. I'm so emphatic about that because for a stock that's up 50%, let alone 100%, those stocks are not easy to borrow. They are not shortable. Well, this stock was up 300% and it was shortable. It was easy to borrow. You didn't have to request shares on TradeStation at least. I was in a coaching session with one of us today, unfortunately, on Thinkorswim. I think that it was hard to borrow. So, not across all platforms, but on a complete rarity, this BYSI was shortable for us on TradeStation. Unfortunately, I wish I could like pat myself on the back and like tell you folks, tell everyone, tell my mom, like, hey, I ended up shorting this from 45. No, I wish I could say I did. This ended up topping off and dropping off way too early in pre-market for my liking. I was, definitely interested in trading this for after the market open, but at that point, the stock was already down like 15 points, ended up, getting close to 20-point drop off here. So it was already down to my support levels that I drew in advance of the market open. I ended up long this stock on a few hundred shares, a couple hundred, then 300 over time. I was in and out throughout the day. Most of my trades throughout the day were on this stock. So, thankfully, I guess I can say I did a lot better, or a lot more wins than losses collectively. I did take my last trade as a loss. I ended up getting slipped out here as it popped over 25. It came back down. I thought there was going to be more to it. Well, I was right. But I didn't want to try and hold on because this thing could easily drop off as fast as it could pump up. And we saw that from pre-market. So after this last one, I ended up taking like a 25-cent hit here. It was on a few hundred shares, so it wasn't like no, full position size. I just said, you know what, staying away from it, maybe come back to it later on. Well, ended up making the squeeze up probably about 10 minutes later, right? Ended up breaking back over 25, building this trend up, making the move all the way up to 30. I told you folks inside the trading room that 30 was going to be a local top. It was going to top off there, at least temporarily. I thought it was going to give it a little bit more fight, even. Ended up just topping off perfectly right off the decade level. And from that point, pulled back. So, I'll kind of put this in the same line as the BTBT, perhaps. Start off by putting both on the side list, so to say. The BTBT and the BYSI trade, come back to both at the end. Skip asking here in the trading room, WTF? I'm not going to spell that out for us that don't know what that means. But nonetheless, yeah, Skip, that caught me by surprise too. If you're referring to BYSI being shortable at 300% this morning, that's a complete rarity. All right. So what we will do though is go from top to bottom because we also did really well on this one trade. Fausto had called this one out more so heading in towards the late part of our audio broadcast, near towards 10:30 Eastern time. It was beginning to pop from 80 cents, 85 or 90 cents at the time. I think one of our students, Norman, ended up getting like 15 or 20 cents on this trade per share. Hey, for a cheap stock like this, that's like 85, 90 cents at the time that we call it out, that's as good of a profit as you could expect. So I'm not saying this to Norman because he wasn't complaining at all about the left money on the table, but I say this to anyone else because you can't get too greedy. This stock ended up beginning to pull back over time, right? It seemed like it was holding its own, but it was making lower highs. And with more selling volume that gets filled here, meaning more volume getting filled on the bid, like these red prints on the tape live now, the more of that, we're going to see this begin to pull back further. So, that's unfortunately what happens here on this trade. Ended up diving all the way back down towards 75 cents. I guess making your second win type of pop back up now, but I'm not expecting it to make new highs. So, we see this happen. We'll make a little bounce back up a bit here, but for right now, we'll pass. All right, let's see what else we got here. ACY, known pump and dump type of stock, pop and drop, pump and dump, whatever you may call it. But I say that because look what happens here. You could just see on the daily chart, if I can get it right. In the beginning of January, the stock ended up popping from $7 or $5 near all the way up towards over 35, came all the way back down in the course of the same day, pulled back across the remaining few days after, and get all these red candles here, not good. All right. Tell you what here, a little check back in because the stock, I said it was on the side list to start. It's getting a bit of a push back up right now. I still have it up on my level 4 screen on my other monitor. Just dragged that up. I just had it up here. I said, you know what? It's popping up here. I may as well show it. So the BTBT will kind of promote this and put this on our main list at this point. It's starting to push back up towards that 1250. Has an order on the ask right around 1258. Is that 1257, 1258? 1256. If it breaks that, next resistance up top right around 1280-ish, 1282. Then from there, really the big one ahead is at 13. So you know what? This has a little bit more life to it. I'll put this on our main list here for right now. All right, so the EXPI stock, that was pushing up pretty nicely earlier, albeit kind of like thin order book, which I'm not a fan of, you know that. So, made a nice run from before, but not a whole lot happening really right now. All right, BTBT, we just showed 2 seconds ago. Jeez, PNTX, holy smokes. I clicked on this. The second I clicked, I thought to myself, like, it's pretty expensive. I thought, no, maybe like 60, 70 bucks. Yeah, maybe back in April. This stock ended up making a huge pop here today. What the hell is the news on this BNTX trade? We're not going to trade it. I'm just curious to know for a stock that's $400+ per share to be up 22+%. All right, so BioNTech shares trading higher following New York Times articles suggesting the FDA is fully aiming to approve. Yeah, the five. Okay, so yeah, they're tagged along with PFE. So check in with Pfizer if anything here. I forgot it's Pfizer/BioNTech. I wish Pfizer's getting the push. This is a little bit more within our price range, so I don't know why this one isn't, but BNTX is getting the bigger run. But yeah, this one's obviously making a nice push here, breaking all-time highs, I would assume. So if you want to do options on it, be my guest. But otherwise, I'm not going to day trade this. Same to be said on Novavax here. All right, so I get the price column showing here. I'll kind of skim through. That probably would have saved me some time on BNTX and Novavax and the other here. All right, see what else we got. So I saw John getting about like 20 or so cents on the SNMP trade. Ended up getting out right around 170 from earlier this afternoon, but unfortunately hasn't pushed back up to give us a new opportunity so far. So that'll pass. WORX, same thing. Ended up making a really nice run up earlier here today. Broke out over resistance, seemingly off 275. From here, ended up running up towards 3 and above, but again, same thing. TTOO at the high is almost a bit too slow here, right? So a Fausto call out you. I thought this was YouTube when he said you, but YouTube I think is owned by Google if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on that, but nonetheless, you different company pushed up earlier here today. Not a whole lot really happening right now though. All right, we'll check in with Mosey here, which made a pop earlier. Again, kind of flat right now, so I guess I'll pass. All right, I mean, hey, the SPY's pushing up. One of us said the markets look ugly. The Dow and the S&P are down. Yeah, maybe across like the last 24 hours, but SPY's been gradually pushing up off the lows since noontime. So there might still be some stocks that still look strong or near the highs, pushing with the market perhaps heading into this afternoon. So we'll come back to our side list perhaps at the end. I'll tell you what, I got lucky on this ZY trade, and for any of our longtime students in our trading room, my stance on luck. And for anyone new here, perhaps I'll tell you, I don't believe in luck. The quote that I have been told years back by someone is that luck is for losers. I mean, what I mean by that, it's to say that you're the one using strategy. Unless if you're seriously throwing a dart on the wall and hope it lands, like blindfolded, pressing buy, you're using a strategy, you're managing a trade. So you're either managing it well or mismanaging it. You're either taking a very good entry based on strategy or you're taking a pretty crappy entry based on strategy. I had a pretty good entry today. For every trade I take, I feel like I have a pretty good entry, most, if not all of them. Doesn't mean that I win on them all. I might take losses, but I have good entries. This, I had a good entry, and fortunately, it paid off. I was in on this trade from 825 off the opening print. It built up really nicely as resistance here. It took me a few minutes, and then once it broke 820, like literally the second it popped 825, it was insta at 9. Like, took me by complete surprise. To get this trade off, I was expecting a move to 850, which is ultimately what it did later on. But the second it popped and I saw it at 9, like, a couple 4-letter words coming out my mouth here, not on the audio broadcast, but man, I pressed close right at 9 and it was like practically the immaculate trade. That was like my best trade on the day, really. This and the BYSI trade. But yeah, right now this trade's kind of washed up. The ZY stock, it's down 76%. So you'd hope for a dead cat bounce at some point. I was from earlier, and unfortunately, I mean, even unfortunately, I got the trade off, but died off after, and I'm not expecting a whole lot to happen here. I mean, just look at the ARDX stock back from what, like a month ago or a few weeks ago at this point. Stock was down like 80+% here, looking for a dead cat bounce, a quick short squeeze back up, and I mean, if you're still in that trade, you're waiting quite a while. All right, so we'll see what else we got because the skills warrants are down 50+%. I don't know where the equity is though. Let's It's not on like the top 25 here. I don't know what the hell's happening here on skills. I'll jump to it here in just a second. See what else we got here in the meantime first. CDLX, shortable. Yeah. Nah. WTI, shortable. It's been dropping off a little bit, but not really much to write home about otherwise. I mean, if it was dropping off faster, making a steadier move down, I mean, this is steady, but I mean, like, on the way down to 310 as we speak, then I'd be a bit more interested, but maybe we'll give this a little bit more time. All right, let me type up skills here fast. And then otherwise, folks, for all of us on YouTube and Facebook Live, or, Facebook and YouTube Live, however, and then for all of us live inside the trading room, either way, type any other stocks that I may have missed, anything up, down, left, right, more than 5% you would want me to check out. In the meantime, my first water break of this meeting. Pretty impressive. All right. Let's see. We'll go to YouTube first. From Mitch. Actually, well, skills first. I'm sorry, getting ahead of myself. So the skills trade, right? The warrants we saw down 53%. SKLZ, the stock we are familiar with, they're down off of earnings. So ended up making a big drop off here after the market opened up. For as much as I did good on the ZY and the BYSI trade from earlier, I wish I could say I jumped in on this trade. I was really following this in pre-market. I lined it up. Unfortunately, I didn't jump in, and I was expecting the drop off at least a little bit after the market opened up into the morning. So, to say off 13, it's easy to say in hindsight given where it's at now, but I mean, this played out very well to how I expected it to go. Made for a nice drop, and for right now, it's near the lows. It's a little flat, but I don't know, something about this here heading into the afternoon. I'll put this on our list. And so far, we only have BTBT on there. So, we might need to add a couple stocks here at this point. So, skills we'll kind of put a focus on, and then we'll see what else we got here otherwise. From YouTube, we'll go to first. We'll go from top to bottom here. So, Mitch, welcome back. Mitch asking about the Dolphin trade, DLPN. Yeah, stock from Monday ended up making a huge push up off of news, the digital art stock, NFTs. So we'll get to Bitcoin at the end, like I had said. But yeah, pushing up a little bit here. Maybe we'll call it out later on if it ends up showing us more life. But for right now, I mean, for the spread, I'm not really too big on it. SPRT from Dan. It's pushing up there. And this stock has proven to be a nice trade over the last couple weeks, really, on and off just over the last 2 weeks, trading on the way up here for the most part from 5 up towards 9 plus. So, you know what? It's near the highs. Spread's a little bit more contained. Order book more filled in, just generally. Yeah, I'll add this SPRT. Cool. AHPI from Doug. Ooh, so it's pushing up pretty nicely. This AHPI stock. Wow. It's only up 3%, but getting a strong push here. Check out APT first. Those stocks tend to move somewhat, together, similar. I don't know. I'm going to check Benzinga Pro here first, just to see if there's any news related to both or one or the other. So we got no specific news out, but with all the COVID news out, and I'm not even getting into that, but with all the COVID news, the new strain of it, it's called the Delta Plus. I saw a funny joke on Twitter today. It's like it sounds like a new streaming service, like Disney Plus, ESPN Plus. Oh, we got the Delta Plus now. Yeah, so we've been seeing AHPI push up over the last week and a half with said news in mind. And yeah, I mean, for right now, it's getting a strong run here. So I don't mind adding this to our list for right now. If it ends up dumping off, or if the volume rather dies off quick here, then I'd say the stock itself is going to dump off from that point. So be careful in that regard. All right, from the Cyber Group room, he hit the APT trade, the AHPI stock. John says noses and eyes streaming, maybe. Yeah. From P Trader on YouTube, he says Snap is strong but a bit expensive. Yeah, it is, but it is near the highs, right? I mean, and it's getting close to all-time highs as well from a couple weeks back. I think they ended up reporting earnings from a couple weeks back. That's what led to that big gap up and run from that point. So, it's a good sideless stock. Good liquidity for a $75 stock for sure. I mean, you could say the same, and I hate showing this, but AMD. All right. I don't like talking much about me here, but real quick story for us on YouTube or Facebook Live. I mean, I mentioned this last week for all of us in Cyber Group. Fausto rubs it in every now and then. He likes to, but a little history lesson. Not all of us here are perfect. I started with C2 back in 2014. I came into this company with zero stock trading experience. I didn't know what a short was. So with that in mind, I was sculpted as a day trader. I'm a one-trick pony. So, with that in mind, all right, a little bit different than swing trading. And, back in 2015, about a year since I started, early 2016, I was in on a trade on AMD as a swing, an investment more so, not a swing even, more as an investment. I read up a lot of research, did my due diligence. I listened to press conferences from their CEO at the time, new CEO Lisa Su, and she's still with them. Incredible mind, and I was led to believe that this could be a $75, $70 stock 5 years from the time I got in. That was right around 2015. Well, I entered the trade at $11. I ended up getting out. It was like, I forgot the price I got out on. I barely took any sort of profit. I was up a lot, long story short, based off of like inline earnings. The stock ended up dropping off lowered guidance. They were down 10% off of bad earnings. And that's not even as much compared to what we see from other companies. But it scared me to the point where I got out in full. I only took like a $500 or $600 profit. I was up a lot more. I didn't get back in. And I was in on way too many shares to begin with. That's the reason why I was more scared to get back in. But always trust your first instinct. That's the quick lesson of the day. Because although I never got back in, I'd like to think that my due diligence, I guess, was correct there, right? Where they said that around 2020, 2021, AMD would be a $70, $75 stock. Well, it's a $119, $120 stock today. So, it's a quick little lesson for you. Not all of us here are perfect. All right. So, with that in mind, I mean, that's the reason why I'm kind of holding on to Bitcoin as much as I am, because I saw what happened there 4 years ago, and I'm very confident of it now. We'll get to that next. But yeah, I mean, long story short here for the other trades that we have like Neo, AMD, all these other ones that could move with the market for this afternoon. Not a whole lot to really write home about. I feel like we'll pass on these here so far. All right, so let me show Bitcoin here pretty quick, then we'll wrap it up. I don't really have anything else otherwise, though. We got the AHPI stock popping, so I'll show that again already on our list. SPRT at the high of the day right now, so that's already on our list. So let me pull up Bitcoin, and then from there, I guess if there's anything else from that point that I missed, then let me know. But here's Bitcoin really quick from where we last left off, right here on this vertical line. We started to pull back a little bit, and we knew that was going to happen. So I told you that I would let you know if I end up adding more. I didn't add any more. I did not. I'll let you know when I do. But I did have a question come in from email. And by the way, for all of us on YouTube and Facebook Live, I'm going to try and do this daily, like I did yesterday and the day before. If you have any questions that you would like to ask me, or anything that I could talk to you about on the side, let me know. There's my email address, josh@c2trading.com. I had a question come in from George on YouTube, one of us that watches us, and he's not always on the chat, perhaps, but watches on the side, emailed me just asking like, hey, what are your positions on Bitcoin and everything else crypto wise, since you talk so much about it? I can't tell you exactly the monetary number that I have in terms of like how much Bitcoin I have at what price. Well, I can tell you the price practically, because all these arrows that I drew on my chart here, this is the 6 hour chart. I tried to just basically show it perfectly here. And most recently, I've had a couple of good entries off the dips here. Even here, this was a great entry at the time. I got it right off the bottom practically, ended up pushing back up, but obviously we had a drop off from there. So I really started to load up going back into May, June, July of last year. When it pushed up, I'm not going to add as much as I did back then, but I'll add over time. And these are all of my entries that I've had over the last year plus on Bitcoin. All right. Now, getting to the chart at least, though, at this point, any sort of good news will get a big pump up. I don't think that we'll have any sort of, or any more FUD, any sort of, negative news that could lead to fear or any of uncertainty, perhaps. Perhaps we'll get one more pullback, but at that point, I'd be interested in adding since I didn't so far. But otherwise, here on Bitcoin, just based on the trend lines that I have built here, you could just see it ended up popping this one. That's what led to the last squeeze. I had one up here just before. I don't know if it ended up getting deleted when I'm doing my thing, but let's see. This is the trend line I tried to pop up here before I started this meeting. So I think over time, what's going to happen on Bitcoin is we're going to see this begin to get close to this trend line, maybe off one more pullback, then it will begin to squeeze up here. And then from that point, we'll see if it ends up failing and coming back down, or if we get the quick squeeze off this top trend line like we had from here, I would expect a really nice pop. So we'll see what comes over the next few days. All right, got a quick question from P Trader on YouTube to wrap things up here. Oh, actually, really quick, from one of us joining late, perhaps, on the BYSI. I guess they're kind of asking to go over it. So the BYSI trade, I didn't put on the main list just yet. I did say it was going to be on our side list and come back to it at the end. So here we are at the end. And you know what? We don't have too many stocks on our main list. I'll keep this on for right now. But let me tell you, like I told one of us yesterday on YouTube, they're asking about what stock was it yesterday? The WHLM. They're asking, hey, for as much as WHLM popped up, is it going to continue to push up in the afternoon? And I told you at the time, and I was very blunt. I was like, be honest, no. Like, I am strongly led to believe this is only going to drop off. Well, look what happened. So, here's the thing on the BYSI. It's coming off of good news. But we ended up just seeing it make the run up before. At least us in Cyber Group, we were in this stock. We were trading it from the afternoon time on the way up. We were calling out the top off of 30. I wish I can tell you that I'm in this trade right now as a short. I am not. If anything, I think that this will be a better short than a long heading into the close. It's got a really wacky spread, so you got to be really diligent and patient waiting for the right move on this trade. But I think it's more of a short than a long into the close. And if I'm wrong, I'll be happy to be wrong. But either way, it's more of a level 5 stock. I'll slip this on our list here at the end. All right, from P Trader to wrap things up here, asking more or less about me. Have you been a student on C2 first? No, I was employed. I came from a real estate background. I was a real estate agent in New York City. I was doing more FIDI area. That was back in 2012, 2013, 2014, and then back in October 14, I ended up. It's a whole story. I ended up stepping away. I ended up looking just for sales rep jobs around Long Island. I ran into a company by the name of Cyber Trading University. I was like, well, what the hell's this? I mean, I never heard of a school, a place, a company that teaches anyone to trade the stock market. I mean, they never taught you that back in college. So I started off young. I mean, I told us back a week ago, born in 91, and that blew one of us out of our seat. So, relatively young in terms of just following the stock market in general. But it's to say, though, that doing the same thing each and every day, each and every week, each and every month, each and every year for the last going on 7 years now. I'm not a good swing trader because I don't have as much experience with swing trading, but with the experience that I have with day trading, it's proven to make me very successful. So, if you want to join us live inside our trading room, that goes for P Trader, that goes for Don and Dan and Mitch, RJF, all of us on YouTube, Facebook Live. Just make sure you go down to the bottom on the banner below the stream. Just go right there. You'll sign up for the small trial to our trading room. I don't like telling us all about me. I'll be happy to if you want to hear about me. I'll save a little time if you want, but this is all about us. This is all about the stock market in general. So you know what? I'll tell you what. I'm going to stop flapping my gums right now. We're going to finish the show right now and get to it. We got BT, Skills, SPRT, AHPI, BYSI, and perhaps a couple more otherwise. So again, for all of us on social media, Facebook Live, I appreciate you sticking with me each and every day, each and every afternoon. And hey, if you're interested in learning more about me, send over a quick email. Like I had said before, josh@c2trading.com. Be more than happy to talk to you. All right, for all of us otherwise inside the trading room, I got to jump on a quick call here coming up. I'll be back on the mic coming up at 3:30 Eastern time. I'll talk to you then.